Hi, gang, it's Adam.
And Patrick.
Coming up on today's episode, we head to the Italian Riviera and share our spoiler-free review of Disney and Pixar's Luca. As always, we cover the latest Disney news and close out the show with some quick D. All that and more on today's episode of Gays Do the D.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Buongiorno, Patrick Pasta Kazuki.
Ooh, I love pasta. Adam Tortellini Hummel.
That is my Christian middle name, Patrick.
I had a feeling. What a delicious name. What a delicious name you have.
It's so delicious and instantly just makes you a little bit sleepy, you know?
Oh, interesting. Does pasta make you go sleepy times?
Those carbohydrates, I can't help but want to take a nap immediately after downing some pasta, yes.
And what you should do is actually go for a run on a hot day after you have a bowl full of pasta.
Immediately after, right?
Mm-hmm. Right after, just seconds after. And film it and send it to me.
Have you ever seen that Office episode?
Yes. That's maybe my favorite episode of The Office, I think.
It is truly a magical episode. If you have not seen it, Tweedles, I know this isn't an Office podcast, although the Office podcasts seem to be doing quite well, so maybe we should pivot, Patrick.
Yeah, those ladies are magical.
Anyway, check it out. It's a run for diabetes. Is that right? Or what is it? Something like that.
I can't remember. It's not about that. It's about every single character having their own journey on a running journey.
That's absolutely correct. And speaking of journeys, here we are, yet another podcast episode, Patrick. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I'm a little thrown off. You know, I think this is a first for us that we are recording on a Friday afternoon.
Yes, it's a Friday first. It's First Fridays. That's what we're calling it.
Sensible. No, I'm doing well. The weekend is here. It's Friday night, and I just got paid. We owe so many royalties. I think it's too long on that. I don't know what's going on. How are you, sir? How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for asking. We have such a fun episode ahead of us today, not only because it's Friday, Patrick, but because we have some fun things to talk about, you know?
We do have some fun things to talk about. It's been a while since we've done an episode where we, spoiler-free, review a movie that we've just seen today.
Yeah, it just came out. We're talking about Luca, of course. We watched it. We hopped on our mics, and now here we are, ready to gab about it.
Ready to gab all about it. I think it's been since Captain Marvel came out that we've done something like this.
Oh, that's right. Yes, back in the days when we'd go to the theater and then go to your place and record.
Oh, remember that?
Oh, those were the days.
Those were the days indeed. Well, that was the past, Adam, and we have some future to talk about. What a segue, Patrick. Gold star for you. We are coming up on episode 150. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. You know what? I'm going to take that back. I actually can believe it because we've got a special episode coming up for our July 5th release, and it's forced. Forced, is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, Patrick and I have gone back and listened to previous episodes, and so, yes, I'm highly aware that we are quickly approaching 150 because I've listened to a lot of our past episodes now.
That's true. You're teasing. There's another special episode coming up, Tweedles, but you'll have to wait and find out. But episode 150 specifically is coming up in just a few weeks. I, too, can believe that it is 150 because I've had such a rough 150 weeks, you know? It's been a real journey, a real emotional roller coaster ride. But for episode 150, we want to hear from all of you, our Tweedles. We are hoping that you will send us some messages, send us some questions, use the voice memo function on Instagram or whatever you do. I don't know technology, but we want to hear from you. We're going to do another episode of Questions and Peter Pantsers, and we are going to answer all your questions and hopefully just hear some feedback from all of you as well.
Oh, yes, please. Send us your feedback, particularly if you're super angry. We want that feedback.
Absolutely. Hate mail only.
Yeah, that's right. Questions and Peter Panthers. It's been a while since we've done one. We thought there'd be no better way to celebrate 150 than by hearing from you. So send us your questions and send us your thoughts. Send us your ramblings. We'll really include any of it. I mean, you know the quality of this podcast. You know what you've come to expect. So episode 150 will be absolutely no different than episodes 1 through 149.
That's right. We'll put anything on the air, you know?
That's right. On the air. We're on the air, Patrick.
I don't know why I said it that way, but my point is made that the bar is low. So you don't have much to do, Tweedles. Just say anything at all, and it's better than what we do.
Yeah, that's right. We're just jerks. We're two jerks with microphones. You might have something more thoughtful to communicate, so please do that. And you can do that by reaching out to us on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast.
Or send us a voice memo or email at info@gaysdothed.com.
Now, zooming back to episode 146, which is what this is.
We're back to the present. Wait,
did you see me really thinking about that, Patrick? I had to process that. Is this 146? It is.
Both of us are very confused right now, as per usual. So we're back on track. That's what that means.
Great. I quantum leaped back into my own body.
What a reference. Got back you lost.
Let's reboot that series, please.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Anyway, summer, Patrick. We have reached summer. It's full summerosity.
It's a summer extravaganza up in her. That's
right. So it's time to put on some sunscreen. Let's be sensible about this because the sun is so intense now.
That's right. SPF 130.
Get out your kiddie pools.
Dip those tootsies. You got to cool off your tootsies.
Cool off your tootsies and grab a marg, right?
Sure, why not? I'm not the biggest Marg fan, but listen, you do you.
Give me all the Margs. Matthew has fully embraced the skinny girl margarita, so we have been drinking enough of those to make up for the fact that they are skinny girl margaritas.
Brought to you by Bethany Frankel.
That's right. So they're just regular margaritas because we've had so many at this point. So happy summer to everyone. Please be safe. Please enjoy the weather, the beautiful or super steamy weather.
Speaking of super steamy, that's not really a good segue. We also have another very exciting announcement. Welcome back, not only summer, but welcome back to all of you Disney College Program students. You are back in the parks as of June 15th. How exciting is that?
So exciting. Just in time for masks off.
Rip off those masks, throw them in the air like you just don't care, and bring your magic. Bring your magic, everyone.
We are certain that you will. We're so excited to have you back in the parks. We're excited to take one more step towards normalcy. I don't know when officially we go over the normalcy cliff, but we're very close, right, Patrick?
Listen, I am never going to be on board with calling it normalcy. I think we've got to find a new phrase for it because it's never going back to the way it was. Let's be clear about that. But we are getting back to a little bit closer to what things used to look like.
New normalcy, normalcy plus. Everything has a plus behind it these days.
I like it. Normalcy plus. That's what we're doing now.
All right. Well, welcome back, DCP kids. We're very excited that you're able to have those experiences once again, and we hope to see you around the parks.
We do indeed. Moving on, Adam, we have something that has never really been said before, but Oshkosh, Wisconsin is on the map officially.
And not just for Oshkosh B'gosh, which was what it was previously known for, but Tweedles, if you caught last week's episode of Loki, that's episode 2, then you are in the know. You know that Oshkosh is now a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I texted you, Adam, immediately during the episode as I was watching it because, as many of you may or may not know, Adam just moved to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which I think there's a conspiracy there. Adam moves and suddenly it's part of the MCU.
That's right. I'm a bit of a mole. I'm a Disney mole, Patrick. You thought you were co-hosting a podcast this whole time with just some kind of outsider, a gay Disney outsider. But no, I am entrenched in Disney. I'm a part of Marvel. And I said, hey, Disney, Marvel, let's have the opening of episode 2 be set in Oshkosh.
You're a mole and I want you removed.
Yeah, that tracks. That feels right.
But you've been doing some digging into this. This didn't just spark your interest. It really got to you, Adam. You needed to learn more, and you did some research because partly it was about you. So let us know.
Yes. Spotlight on me.
That's right. That's right. Let us know what you found out from Oshkosh.
I actually didn't do any research. I just Googled and talked to my brother. And so this is what I found out. I was curious, what was the connection to Oshkosh, right? Because there had to have been some kind of, Marvel's so smart. They always have some kind of like little hidden Easter egg in there. So I found out that Oshkosh native and University of Oshkosh graduate Mark Gruenwald started at Marvel as an assistant editor and eventually became chief executive editor at Marvel. And so he worked on the Captain America and the Avengers comics, among others. And on an article I found on comicbook.com, it states that the character of Mobius, played by Owen Wilson in Loki, is believed to be inspired by Mark Gruenwald. And while working as an editor, Gruenwald was in charge of maintaining franchise continuity for Marvel. Patrick, what's wrong with me?
Marble mouth.
Wow, marble mouth. Yes. So anyway, while working as an editor, Mark Gruenwald was in charge of maintaining franchise continuity. And that explains why Mobius has this fixation in the series, if you've watched the series, of protecting the sacred timeline, because in real life, Gruenwald was kind of in charge of protecting the quote-unquote sacred timeline of Marvel.
Interesting. I love learning things like that when characters are inspired by actual people or events and it just ties into the story. That's so fascinating to me.
So that, we assume anyway, is why that opening scene of episode 2 of Loki was set in Oshkosh. And BTW, Oshkosh does not have a Renaissance fair or festival.
Not yet. They will now.
They will now. They really need to cash in on this opportunity. Yeah.
A 1980s themed Renaissance festival.
And that's the dream, is it not?
That's my gay fantasy for sure.
Yes. Absolutely. So there's a little backstory into why we believe, anyway, Oshkosh was featured in episode 2 of Loki.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for bringing us that information, Adam.
And speaking of information, Patrick, I believe you are about to lay down some information on us. That doesn't make sense. Oh, well.
Don't like that one. Don't like that segue. But let's... We were on a roll. We had to end it sometime. But you're right. You're right. It is officially, once again, time for This Week in Disney History. Fanfare, please. Here we go. 33 years ago, Adam, on June 22nd, 1988, boy, this makes me feel old, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was released in U.S. theaters under Walt Disney's Touchstone label. Yes, that's right. 33 years ago. That makes me feel bad about myself. Oh, boy. But so this movie has a very interesting story that I think we need to dedicate a full episode to at some point. It was a major undertaking for Disney with a budget of nearly $30 million. At the time, it was the most expensive movie with animation ever made. Robert Zemeckis directed the film, fresh off of his success with Back to the Future. And Steven Spielberg was brought on to produce, which was a very smart idea because he was able to get Warner Brothers, Fleischer Studios, King Features, Felix the Cat Productions, Turner Entertainment, and Universal to lend their cartoon characters to the movie, which made this the very first movie ever to use such a collaboration of cross-company licensed characters. The film grossed over $300 million worldwide. It won 3 Academy Awards for Best Editing, Best Sound Effects, and Best Visual Effects. And animator Richard Williams received a special Academy Award for animation direction and creation of the cartoon characters. Now, though The Little Mermaid, of course, is widely considered the very first movie in Disney's Renaissance era, many consider Who Framed Roger Rabbit to be the movie that revitalized audience interest in animated movies, thus sort of pushing Disney to up their game with animation and entering into that Renaissance phase.
Totally makes sense, right? I mean, if you need a bridge to get adults interested in animation, you kind of take a more adult approach to it. I mean, there are moments in that film that are so adult. I just love it. But it's a great kind of crossover film to tie animation to live action.
Agreed. And could there be a better character than Jessica Rabbit? I mean, who doesn't love her?
Queen Jessica Rabbit.
I can't believe nobody has done her on Drag Race yet.
Great point. I mean, that's a tough act to pull off, though. If you're going to do Jessica Rabbit, you got to get it just right.
True story. Or just do Kathleen Turner being Jessica Rabbit. I guess that's how you get around it, because you can't do licensed characters on Drag Race.
Yeah, it would have to be Kathleen Turner. Maybe Kathleen Turner now as Jessica Rabbit. That would be fun to see.
I need someone. If you're listening, I'm sure there's a queen out there somewhere who just did a big gay gasp and went, "That's my character for the Snatch Game."
Yeah, this movie, Patrick, was such a moment. I remember, I was a kid, but this was the film event of the summer. It was so major. Everybody was promoting it. I mean, obviously, because all those studios were involved, all the toys, the tie-ins, the commercials. It was the film of that year.
Oh, for sure. It was the talk of the town. Absolutely. I think it was the highest grossing movie that year as well. And it sort of hit all genres, right? Like, it was a cartoon. It was a live action. It was a little scary. It was a murder mystery. It was a comedy. It was a little bit musical. It was everything all in one. Amazing. And
there's been talk for so many years of a Roger Rabbit sequel or a series, and we're waiting.
Yeah, they've been trying. I don't know that the studios are wanting to work with Disney again. I don't know that they'll be able to get all of those licensed characters back together again with all the legal hoopla. I don't think it's going to happen. That's my prediction.
I leave it to Disney Plus to develop some kind of series. It doesn't need to be live action, but maybe there's an animated series in there that can explore more of Roger's story, or the shorts that were produced and released before other Disney films that followed the release of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Sure. I would see a Roger and Jessica sort of couple comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a Donna Reed situation.
Yeah, let's WandaVision that.
I love it. I'm into it. Well, happy anniversary, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Moving on, Adam. 58 years ago, on June 23rd, 1963, the Enchanted Tiki Room opened its bamboo doors in Disneyland, the first ever attraction to feature audio animatronics patented and developed by WED Enterprises. The show was then sponsored by United Airlines and featured over 150 audio animatronic figures. And of course, it featured the unforgettable song, The Tiki 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 Room by the Sherman Brothers.
Your performance of that was spot on. Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Is the Tiki Room a must-do for you on every Disney trip, Patrick?
What a great question. I do like the Enchanted Tiki Room. From what I remember in my memory, we didn't do it when we were in Disneyland this past time, but I do remember being in it when I was younger in Disneyland, and I want to go back and try it there again. I think a lot of people say that for some reason it's better in Disneyland than it is in Disney World.
I think that's accurate. It does feel, even if it's just the sense of the history behind the attraction while you're there, it does feel more successful in Disneyland, but who knows? That could just be me being me. Oh, Adam.
Fair enough. The Tiki Room has grown on me over the years, though. It went the way of the Country Bears for me, where for a while I was sort of like, if there's nothing else to do, sure, we'll go and sit down and watch the show. But now I'm starting to like it more. And I think, like you were saying, it's the nostalgia behind it that keeps it on the map, I think.
Also, the older you get, the more you like to sit down.
True story. Well, let's move on, Adam, to our last item on This Week in Disney History. 60 years ago, on June 21st, 1961, The Parent Trap was released in theaters, starring Hayley Mills as estranged twin sisters Sharon and Susan. The film is and was loved by many as a delightful summer comedy. It grossed $30 million worldwide and received high praise for the editing of Hayley Mills playing opposite herself. In fact, it was the only movie that year that was nominated for an Academy Award in editing that wasn't nominated for Best Picture. The songs in the movie were written by the Sherman Brothers, and fun fact, the title song, The Parent Trap, was performed by Tommy Sands and Annette Funicello, who happened to be on the lot at the same time filming Babes in Toyland.
They had an extra 10 minutes during their break, and they were like, just come record this song.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, listen, Annette Funicello would have done anything for Disney, and they made her do everything for Disney during that time.
Yeah, she was a workhorse for sure.
Indeed. And listen, the beloved Annette Funicello.
They did, as they loved Haley Mills. Thank you, Miss Bliss.
Thank you so much, Miss Bliss. You've seen The Parent Trap, yeah?
I've never seen the original Parent Trap. No.
Why did I even ask that question?
I know. Why? What's wrong with you? What's going on? Come on.
I feel like of all the Disney live action classic films, this is one that you would have seen, but boy, did I have high hopes in you.
Ever a disappointment, am I not?
Ever a disappointment. Unlike The Parent Trap. Never a disappointment.
That's right. Yes, I know it's a classic film. I know I need to watch it. Again, we got to get around to that feature segment, Patrick. We just got to figure out what's the angle. Patrick introduces Adam to ... I
was going to say something like Adam's live action Cherry. Nope, we can't. We're not going to go there. Not today.
Can't we? I mean, it's called Gaze Do the Deep, Patrick. That ship has sailed. We are so far gone when it comes to any kind of creative innuendo. Let's just be blatant about it.
It's true. We're garbage. On that note, that was this week in Disney history.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Wonderful as always. And that means, Patrick, that we're going to transition into the news.
Oh, good. More garbage.
This is where we get classy, if anything. This is like the classiest part of the podcast, right?
There's no classy part of this podcast. If you're fast forwarding, trying to find the class, just delete the episode.
Unsubscribe.
That's the classiest thing that we could offer you.
So both of my news stories this week actually have to do with Disney Plus, but this first one is super important and super gay. So we have to give it its own spotlight, right, PK?
I like it. Pin spot, please, on this news story.
Here we go. This Pride Month, Disney Plus will celebrate its community of LGBTQ plus creators, employers, and fans with its first ever virtual variety show, This Is Me, Pride Celebration Spectacular, premiering on Disney Plus, YouTube, and Facebook on Sunday, June 27th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific. The concert will feature one-of-a-kind musical performances of songs from the iconic movies and series available to stream on Disney Plus, reinterpreted through an LGBTQ plus lens. Hosted by Nina West. Nina West, Patrick.
We know her.
Sort of. We sort of know her.
We talked to her.
We talked to her virtually. Hosted by Nina West, This Is Me, Pride Celebration Spectacular will feature performances by Alex Newell, DeCapella. DeCapella, Patrick.
We know them.
Sort of. We've seen them. And we've spoken to their creator.
We know their creator.
But enough about us. Frankie Rodriguez and Joe Serafini, Haley Kiyoko, Jackie Cox, Jesse James Keitel, Kermit the Frog, West, Michael James Scott, and Todrick Hall. All of those people and the one frog will be performing in the spectacular. The spectacular is directed by Anne Marie Pace, who most recently directed Disney's Launchpad short film, Growing Fangs, currently streaming on Disney Plus. Joe Early, global head of marketing and content curation for Disney Plus, stated, quote, "At Disney Plus, we believe in the power of inclusive storytelling to bring us together and inspire us to live authentically. We are committed to amplifying the voices of our LGBTQ plus creators and talent and performing content that reminds people to love loud and sing louder in this special event," end quote. Produced in partnership with Disney Music Group and Disney Pride Employee Resource Group, the assembled team behind the spectacular is predominantly comprised of members of the LGBTQ plus community with the support of allies. This Is Me, Pride Celebration Spectacular will raise awareness for GLSEN, a nonprofit the Walt Disney Company is proud to support, which works to ensure LGBTQ+ students are able to learn and grow in a school environment free from bullying and harassment. The Walt Disney Company proudly contributes towards organizations that support LGBTQ+ communities and people. Subscribers can discover LGBTQ+ characters and stories in the Celebrate Pride Month content set, now streaming on Disney Plus, and join in recognizing the community all month long.
I love it. I love it. Now, I don't want to say that we put this into the world, but we made this happen, you know?
By producing a podcast that is gay and Disney?
Yes, that. And last week we had a discussion about how we needed Disney to do more specifically for Pride.
Oh, right. Okay, so we can take full credit for this then.
100% credit, yeah.
Fantastic. You guys, you're so welcome.
We did it for you. With the reopening of Disneyland Paris last week, for the first time in almost a year and a half, every Disney park around the world is open and operating. A quote from Disney Parks Experiences and Products Chairman Josh D'Amaro: "To our guests and fans, thank you for supporting and standing by us. We're honored that you've stuck with us through a very difficult time, and I'm moved by the imaginative ways you've kept the Disney magic alive in your own families and communities during our closures. The last 17 months have challenged us, but they've also given us opportunities to make bold decisions and reimagine our business for the future. The world is beginning to recover and reopen, and while we still have work ahead, we will always rise to the challenges and opportunities that shape our business and embrace a future full of endless possibilities." As the parks around the world navigate how they operate, changes in policy are being made almost daily. Both Disney World and Disneyland have begun removing physical distancing markers throughout the parks and removing plexiglass barriers on some transportation and in queues. Now, as of this recording, Disney World and Disneyland have also updated their mask policies. Their current policy now states that vaccinated guests are no longer required to wear a mask outdoors or indoors, with the exception of Disney transportation, including buses, monorails, and the Skyliner. Unvaccinated guests are expected to wear a mask at all times, but Disney will not be checking for proof of vaccination. And as we reported before, as of June 15th, Disneyland is now welcoming out-of-state guests to the parks. And finally, this past week, Disney made an explosive announcement, Adam. Nighttime spectaculars will once again light up the Disney skies. Starting on July 1st, Magic Kingdom will bring back Happily Ever After, and Epcot Forever will be returning to Animal Kingdom. Just kidding, to Epcot. Where else would it go? It's called Epcot Forever. And, of course, Harmonious is expected to premiere sometime in the next 30 years. Over on the other coast...
They're rehearsing for it now, Patrick. Come on.
It's been a while. Over on the other coast, Mickey's Mix Magic will play nightly throughout the summer in Disneyland starting on July 4th. Now, it should be noted that specialty nighttime spectaculars will not be happening for the 4th of July or for the Disney After Hours Boo Bash. No word yet on what's in store for the 50th anniversary in Disney World or for the winter holidays in either park.
First, before we recognize the importance of every Disney park being reopened once again, I just want to congratulate you on bringing back the phrase "as of this recording," because it's been so long, Patrick, since we've had to say that on the podcast.
I know. Well, things are happening in reverse now. Like the last time we were using that phrase almost every single episode, things were closing down and shutting and going away, and now they're opening up and changing, and things are happening. Things are sparking again.
Things are happening. How great is it that the parks are reopened now around the world, and it's so wonderful to hear that fireworks will be returning to the domestic parks very, very soon.
I absolutely got emotional when they teased that YouTube trailer. I think they put it on some television stations as well. Just a little blip of fireworks going off in the skies, and I teared up. It's an emotional thing. It really, those moments within a Disney park really tie your memories to your vacation, and it'll be nice to have that back again.
That is absolutely true. Those nighttime spectaculars are like the little chef's kiss to the end of a wonderful day in a Disney park. And it's such a memorable, wonderful moment. So you're absolutely right, Patrick. It's great to have them back, and it's great to be able to celebrate that moment once again.
Absolutely. I mean, who among us have not stood with their best friend in Epcot and watched the fireworks while crying into a margarita? You know, that old tale.
Yeah. You are speaking directly to me right now, Tweedles. You may not even be listening anymore because Patrick is making fun of the fact that I was crying into my margarita watching the last time I saw Reflection. No, what was it called? That old Epcot fireworks spectacular. Who even remembers at this point?
Who can know? Who can remember anymore? It's been 87 years.
As we all know, Loki, starring Tom Hiddleston. Has anyone said that yet, Patrick?
I'm going to send you a check for $100 for that. That was priceless. Well, it was priced at $100, so...
If all of our Tweedles could also do the same, that would be wonderful. Tom Hiddleston. So, by the way, I'm fully Team Loki now. Okay? Team Thor who? No, Team Loki. So as we all know, Loki premiered on Wednesday, June 9th. The series episodes were originally scheduled to be released on Fridays, like WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Well, the move to midweek, Patrick, paid off big time for Disney and Marvel, which means someone's getting a raise. Patrick?
It's me when I look at Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yep, we're trash once again.
Garbage.
This was our opportunity, and we're back to trash. Samba TV reports that Loki's Wednesday premiere drew 890,000 U.S. households, which the third-party streaming stat organization said is, quote, the largest U.S. premiere day audience for any of Marvel's Disney Plus shows. Loki bested the first day of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, which drew 759,000 households, and WandaVision, which bewitched 655,000 households. Disney is now going all in on Hump Day. Did you like that?
I mean, yeah, for many reasons, several many reasons.
Thank you so much. Disney is going all in on Hump Day for the release of its originals, including all original scripted, unscripted, and animated series, with Disney Plus original movies continuing to premiere on Fridays. The new schedule is as follows. Monsters at Work moves from July 2nd to July 7th. Turner and Hooch moves from July 16th to July 21st. Behind the Attraction moves from July 16th to July 21st, which... I don't know if I can wait another week for that, Patrick. Chip and Dale Park Life moves from July 23rd to July 28th. Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts moves from July 30th to July 28th. The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse Season 1B moves from July 30th to July 28th. Interesting. Growing Up Animal moves from August 20th to August 18th, and Short Circuit Season 2 moves from July 30th to August 4th. One Disney Plus series that has yet to receive a premiere date is the Beauty and the Beast live-action prequel series that we previously reported on. It seemed that the series was in limbo, but it was announced last week that the prequel has been ordered to series, meaning it's happening and that there will be at least one season. According to a June 15th Variety article, the live-action musical series will star Luke Evans and Josh Gad, who will reprise their roles of Gaston and LeFou. And this is interesting to note, Patrick. The Variety article, in parentheses behind LeFou, notes that LeFou's first name, I guess, is Louis.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so apparently he's Louis LeFou because they refer to him as Louis going forward after that.
Interesting. All right.
We learned something. Anyway, they'll reprise their roles respectively from the 2017 live-action Beauty and the Beast film. In addition, newcomer Brianna Middleton will join the show as Tilly, Louis LeFou's stepsister. The prequel series was first announced as being in development in March 2020. Set in the iconic kingdom of Beauty and the Beast years before the Beast and Belle's romance, the series will follow Gaston and Louis LeFou, I guess. I don't know. It still feels weird, as they set off with LeFou's stepsister Tilly after a surprising revelation from her past comes to light, sending the trio off on an unexpected journey. While the mysteries of the past are uncovered and dangers of the present grow, wow, who wrote that? Old friends and new enemies reveal that this familiar kingdom harbors many secrets, Patrick.
I love secrets.
So many secrets. Gary Marsh, president and chief creative officer of Disney Branded Television, had this to say of the prequel's plot. Quote, "For anyone who's ever wondered how a brute like Gaston and a goof like LeFou could have ever become friends and partners," interesting, "or how a mystical enchantress came to cast that fateful spell on the prince turned beast, this series will finally provide those answers and provoke a whole new set of questions," end quote. Disney Plus has given the series an 8-episode order. It was developed, executive produced, and written by Gad, Edward Kitsis, and Adam Horowitz, with each serving as a co-showrunner. Evans will produce. Liesl Tommy, the first Black woman ever nominated for a Tony Award for Best Direction of a Play, will executive produce and will direct the first episode. The project will also feature an original soundtrack from the legendary composer Alan Menken, who will also serve as executive producer. The lyrics for the first episode will be by Glenn Slater, and production will begin in spring 2022. So we can expect probably to see that sometime in the fall 2022, I'm guessing, Patrick.
Okay, all right. It seems very far off from now, but all right, I'm here for it.
You're right. That is very far off.
Sorry to put a damper on that story, but it does sound a lot more epic than I was thinking it was going to be.
And last but not least, Patrick, last week we learned the premiere dates for the Beatles' forthcoming film, Get Back. The Peter Jackson directed documentary, culled from the footage from the 1970 Let It Be film, will premiere as a Disney Plus original documentary series over the Thanksgiving holiday, November 25th, 26th, and 27th, 2021. Happy birthday to you, PK. What a present!
Thank you so much. I've always wanted a Beatles experience for my birthday.
No, but seriously, that's your present from me.
Great. Fantastic. It's more than I expected.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with it. It's free. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As I mentioned, the documentary will air in 3 separate episodes. Each episode is approximately 2 hours in length, rolling out over the 3 days. And we know how Disney loves synergy, Patrick, so I'm going to propose something right here, right now. Perhaps Disney could make an announcement at a press event for the documentary that Rock and Roller Coaster in Hollywood Studios will be receiving a refurb featuring the music of the Beatles. How about that?
Okay. All right. Sure.
I thought you'd be more excited about this.
It doesn't excite me. I want somebody who is current to be in Rock and Roller Coaster, not somebody even deeper into the past.
You know what? I'm taking back your present. You will have no access to this documentary on Disney Plus.
And that is the true present of all.
The Italian Riviera.
Picture it.
And fortunately for us, we were able to, with the help of Disney and Pixar, releasing Luca last week for free on Disney Plus.
For freezies. What a gift. What a summer treat we were gifted.
It really was a summer treat. It was a great little way to kind of kick off summer. This movie does have such a summer flavor to it, does it not?
Absolutely, it does. I was actually thinking about that as I was watching the movie, that I can't imagine this having come out at any other time of year. It's simply a summer movie.
Simply summer cinema, Patrick.
I like it.
So yes, as we said, it was released on Disney Plus for all to watch. So if you have a subscription to Disney Plus, this movie is free to you. And in case you haven't guessed at this point, based on the title of this episode and the banter segment, Patrick and I are going to talk about our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions about Luca, but we're going to do it all in a spoiler-free way.
That's right. We will not spoil this movie for you, but we will gift you with our thoughts and feelings on the film and and talk about the creative crew behind Disney Pixar's Luca.
Yes, we will. In fact, let's jump right into it, Patrick, as if we're jumping into the ocean from the Italian Riviera. See what I did there? Oh my gosh.
I love it. I love it. You should write and direct Pixar movies.
I should. I'm sure they'd love to have me join that very talented group of people. But you know what? I'm going to step back and allow them to shine.
How humble of you.
Thank you so much. So, Patrick, let's talk about the creative team behind this movie and some facts about the movie.
Let's do so. Should we jump right into it with the director of this film?
Let's do it. Directed by Enrico Casarosa.
That's right. First time feature-length film director Enrico Casarosa. He did direct the Pixar short La Luna a few years back, which is absolutely beautiful. And you can see sort of the connection between the two movies.
Yes. The flavoring of La Luna has infiltrated this film. That sounds aggressive, but it is true. And there are several kind of nods, I would say, to La Luna throughout this movie.
Yeah, or just that we really understand now that Enrico Casarosa has a point of view, right? When he does films, and that came across loud and clear with Luca.
Point of view is the perfect way to put it. And I think that will kind of shape our conversation too, because when we get to talk about, how we feel about this movie and how we responded to it and how it spoke to us, it is a different kind of Pixar film, right?
It's funny. That's sort of the phrase that pays with Pixar movies these days, that it's a different voice from Pixar, but it really is, again, in this time. And I think that's just sort of where Pixar is right now. They really established themselves hard and fast with these big franchise movies, and now it seems as though they're branching out into standalone features that sort of, they just have their own way of telling a story, which I'm kind of into. I'm more and more into it as we go deeper into what Pixar has in store for us.
Absolutely, yeah. So really wonderfully directed by Enrico Casarosa. We have a great writing team. Patrick, tell us about the writers.
Sure. We have first up Jesse Andrews, who you may know from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and Margot vs. Lily, the miniseries. And we also have Mike Jones, who worked on Soul. He was also part of the creative team for Toy Story 4, Incredibles 2, and Coco. So both of these fairly new writers in the game, I would say, and a good pairing. I think they really matched up pretty well for this film.
They did. And I think what made the story of Luca so successful for me was the fact that they kept it small, right? This was kind of more of like an insulated story. It takes place in a small fishing village on the Italian Riviera, and we don't really go beyond that world.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a theme for me, and we'll talk about it over and over again probably throughout this episode, is that Luca, I don't want to use the phrase, but I'll say it because I think you'll know what I mean, is sort of a safe movie, if you will. Yeah. It's not overly extravagant. It's not going too deep into dark themes and upsetting themes. It's really giving you a life experience, if that makes sense. It's giving you something really simple to relax into and to enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily. I think there were moments where I wish they would have pushed the story a bit further. And maybe that would have given me an opportunity to connect a bit more with the movie. But it wasn't like this movie was not successful for me. It's just more of like a lighter kind of Pixar story. There wasn't necessarily that level of complexity to this film.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that speaks to what Pixar has been giving us very recently, specifically talking about Soul, where that was a lot to really wrap your mind around. Soul. It took me a couple of viewings to really dig into it and to unravel what I wanted to get out of it. Whereas this movie, and I think lovingly so, did a great job of just giving me something fun and lovely to watch.
Does this feel more like a film that may be directed towards children for you, Patrick?
Sure. Yeah. And I don't mean that in it's too easy. I don't mean that in that adults won't like it. I don't mean that in that it's juvenile by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely something that kids will at least visually love to watch.
Yeah, because that's the way I was feeling. You know, it's exactly what you said. It's not that it's juvenile at all, but it feels more like the kids may have more to grasp onto in this film as opposed to a movie like Soul, or even, you know, like a movie like Toy Story, which can have some very complex emotional elements to it. Whereas this kind of feels more like frothy, light kind of fun and a lot of like hijinks and slapstick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Soul is maybe like a 7-course dinner.
Yeah.
Whereas Luca is a lovely bowl of gelato, you know?
Oh, Patrick, and you took it back to gelato. I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So let's talk a little bit more about the creative elements in the film, Patrick. Were there any elements that really popped for you?
All of it, if I'm honest. The music, the art direction, the production design, I think really was a harmonious experience. Again, it was something a little bit different for Pixar, especially in the animation department. It's something we haven't really seen from them yet, at least not to this extent. I do think that we have the director, Enrico Casarosa, to thank for that. He sort of pulled some inspiration from some of his animation heroes, and the music played so lovingly into it as well. It had that perfect like 1950s Italian feel that I fell in love with right from the start.
There was a great mix of Italian pop music from the era, but then also a really wonderful score that kind of complemented the pop music that was brought in to kind of set just the right tone.
Agreed. And we have Dan Romer to thank for that, by the way. He was in charge of the music for this movie.
I'd like to add on to that too, Patrick, that this is a type of character animation that we haven't really seen before from Pixar. And I think we may have mentioned this when we talked about Onward, which seems like 800 years ago. But, you know, we had commented at that time that it felt like a different sort of Pixar film. And, you know, this is the direction that they're headed now, in that they don't have to rely so heavily on established looks from characters, or maybe the technology's moved beyond that point now, where each movie can have its own individual look. Whereas before, you know, it was like it had to be about toys or cars because they hadn't successfully figured out how to animate people yet. And now we're reaching this point where, you know, technology's come so far that we're able to create these entirely different worlds that have their own look for the people. And we may have mentioned this when the trailer came out. I think you did specifically, Patrick, is that they almost had an Aardman Animation Studios look to them, like a Wallace and Gromit type look to them. And I thought that was really unique for this film and really successful. And credit is due to Deanna, and I'm going to butcher her last name, as I will butcher so many people's names and characters' names in this segment, but Marsigliese?
Sure.
She was featured on Inside Pixar. She was like the redheaded character designer. She worked on the Soul characters, you know, the wire kind of figures. And she's so talented and so engaging. But she was the character art director for Luca and really delivered such a specific look for these characters. It wasn't only just like seemingly inspired by Wallace and Gromit, but I was also getting like Peanuts characters from these characters in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was doing a little bit of research on this, and part of the animation inspiration that I was talking about that came from director Enrico Casarosa is that he's a huge fan of Hayao Miyazaki, who really revolutionized animation in Japan and made popular that sort of anime style. Yeah. And they sort of, you can, if you really look at it now, you can see that anime style shifted into an Italian point of view, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so really specific character design in this film that seemed to be pulled from like several different influences, whether we're right or wrong about that. I mean, obviously, Patrick, the Miyazaki reference is based in fact, but, you know, just you can see these kind of different influences coming out of these characters.
You could just tell it was really, and interestingly so, a team that built this world, really, which is fascinating because it is the first, I think, Pixar movie that was produced basically fully separate from each other. Everyone was in their homes because this really began production during the pandemic.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a Raya situation with Walt Disney Animation. Everyone was in their own space and they were coming together virtually to create this movie.
Exactly.
Well, let's move on to the voice talent behind this film, Patrick. A lot of the cast I am not familiar with at all.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, a lot of newcomers, actually, and a lot of people who haven't really done Disney work before.
And it was great to see so many performers in the cast of Italian descent or heritage.
Sure, at least some of the background characters. The main cast, not so much.
Not so much on the main cast. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But so who among the voice cast really popped for you, Patrick?
That's a great question. I really enjoyed the children, but not all three of them. I thought two of them were a little bit stronger than one of them. But I'll say I really enjoyed Jacob Tremblay's performance as the title role, Luca. Yeah. And then I also really loved sort of newcomer Emma Berman as Julia.
Yeah, Emma Berman is a star, at least as far as it comes to voice talent, because she really did bring so much flavor. And I mean that in every sense, every kind of punny sense I can come up with for, Italy. But she did seem to really bring a lot of flavor to her character, Julia.
Yeah, there was such an interesting texture to her voice that I really loved, loved. We also had Jack Dylan Grazer, who played Alberto, who, though, is a great actor for such a young man. Didn't really love him in this role. I liked the sound of his voice, but I don't know that he really captured the comedy that Alberto needed.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also think, too, that the story just didn't deliver as much for him. Of the three children, he was kind of left by the wayside when it came to his story arc. And it would have been fun to see, and maybe at one point there was more for him to do, but his character was a bit limited.
Toward the beginning of the movie, though, he had quite a big chunk of moments that were supposed to be pretty comedic, and I even just watching it, I was in my head going, that's not how they wanted him to deliver that line. I could tell. It didn't really hit the joke, and so it made it less funny for me. That's just my point of view, anyways.
Yeah, that's a great point. Going back to Jacob Tremblay, though, he is a talent, that one. He's so good. And he's so sweet and endearing and made Luca just so much more sweet and endearing. Like, you instantly fall in love with Luca based on his performance.
I agree. For a while, I had sort of FOMO of Jacob Tremblay. Like, why does he get to do all this stuff? I wanted to be a young kid with Disney. But specifically now, with his performance in this movie, I get it. I absolutely get it. I know why Disney's in love with him. I know why he's playing Flounder in the live-action Little Mermaid. He's great. He just has a really lovable voice, and he's really good at what he does.
Yeah. Maya Rudolph and Jim Gaffigan play Luca's parents, Daniela and Lorenzo. How'd you feel about them?
I really enjoyed them. This is where I think I wish I had a little bit more storyline from them because they are such talented voice actors. I wanted a little bit more out of their characters. It felt almost like a throwaway to use these really amazing actors in such small roles.
Both of them are such talented comedians, and there wasn't a lot for them to do comedically in the story. They were very successful at being kind of authoritative parents, especially Maya Rudolph, who plays his mom. Jim Gaffigan was more of kind of like a bumbling dad figure. And I should also mention Sandy Martin, who everyone knows as Mac's mom from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, voiced the grandma, Luca's grandma, and she was wonderful as well.
Yeah, I love her voice, that sort of gritty, gravelly, delicious voice of an old woman. It's so great.
Still felt like there could have been more for her to do as well. It seemed like there was going to be a real connection between her and Luca because she does in the story kind of provide him an alibi, so to speak, when Luca is potentially going to be punished by his mom. But I thought there was going to be more there, kind of more of like a backstory on her, but we didn't really get that.
We really didn't. Disney is pretty famous, actually, for giving us these really lovable grandmother characters who, though their role is small, we at least get sort of a tearjerker moment from them in a movie, and we didn't get that from this grandmother.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wanted more Grandma Coco, but I felt like I got more Roz from Monsters, Inc.
Which I'm here for as well, but it also didn't really go there either.
Exactly. Anyone else from the cast kind of really shine for you?
Yeah, I did actually really like the character Ercole.
Yes.
I'm sorry for all you Italian folks out there, butcher his name. It's Saverio Raimondo, I believe is how you say his name. He did a great job. He gave this really smarmy, suave adjacent vocalization that was really fun to listen to.
Yeah, I totally agree. And his character and his two kind of sidekicks, a great kind of nod to the Marx Brothers and their slapstick humor. They were always slapping each other or getting into hijinks. And Ercole in particular, the animation behind that character was so funny. Kind of like a Paul Rubens-esque physicality, very erratic, very bombastic, very dramatic, a really wonderful addition and a real standout as far as like the animation went for this film.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's a fun juxtaposition with him where he's sort of that undeserved king of the town, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a great little kind of big fish in a little pond situation.
For sure. I do have to say, another performance that I have to give a shout out is Machiavelli the cat. What a funny character this, my friends, is how you do a funny Disney animal character.
Quite possibly the least ever done with an animated character, and yet so hysterically funny with just the slightest movement and that kind of low, blood-curdling moan that cats can make.
Every moment this cat is on the screen, watch the cat because it's doing something very funny. Even if it's in the background, find the cat because the cat's doing something really funny. It was a blessing to watch.
The background, the foreground, that cat is hysterically funny. In fact, I was watching the film on my own. Matthew was working in the office and he came out at one point and Machiavelli was just moaning or something. And Matthew started dying laughing. So even without the context of the film, that cat is still hilariously funny.
Yeah. Super funny. So that's kind of the cast of the movie. It's a really small cast, which works well. As you were saying earlier, it's kind of a smaller, intimate movie.
As far as the story goes, Patrick, did the story speak to you? I mean, it's basically a fish out of water, pun fully intended story about a sea monster who's able to come to the surface and achieve human form. And it's basically like him experiencing summer in this small Italian town and trying to win a Vespa of all things.
Yeah, on the surface, the story is, a little safe, a little easy, very digestible, if you will. I will say, when the movie first started, the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I wasn't really invested. I didn't know where it was going.
Right.
I didn't think it was a funny Pixar movie. I didn't think it was a sad Pixar movie. I just didn't know where to place it. It almost took me to are they just redoing The Little Mermaid for a second?
Right.
And then it sort of got into this interesting territory that I pulled from it anyways, of a storyline of code switching, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there is definitely a connection, at least from our perspective, speaking as two gay men, of changing who you are for the benefit of others.
Exactly. Absolutely. Fully your appearance. And I know that speaks loudly to the LGBTQ plus community because there are members of our community who can slip in and out of situations by code switching, by playing it straight, if you will. And that's sort of what I picked up on this movie. And I thought that they played that storyline pretty successfully. The director and the production team sort of denies that that's what they were doing. I don't know why they would. Why don't you just say it? Just say, yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to go for here. Because it seems pretty clear to me. Whether or not they intended to, that's what I pulled from it, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was here for it.
You mean specifically they denied the fact that it was like related to the LGBTQ plus experience?
Yes, I think that they were asked pretty directly whether or not that was their intention, and they blatantly said, no, it's just a story about two boys and friendship. So, okay, all right.
Lean into the layers, people. That's what I say. Lean into it.
Lean into the layers. And not only that, it's not just about two boys. It's about two boys and a girl. It's about three people who are friends. I don't know why Disney was pretending and promoting this as a friendship between two boys, because Julia was just as much a part of this movie as anybody else in the film. So I don't know why they sort of downplayed her in the marketing.
Right. And there's an interesting dynamic between these three characters since we're talking about them. There's Alberto, who's more of like a physical character, and then we have Luca and Julia, who tend to be a little bit more intellectual. And so there is a divide that develops between these three characters because of that. And it's a fascinating look at those kind of relationships, because we do come across them in our lives so often where, you know, we have a connection with someone, but then we meet someone else where there's another kind of element that comes into play or draws us to them that hasn't been explored before. And that was kind of an interesting take on this kind of triad that was formed in the story, the kind of dynamics that shift throughout the movie.
Yeah, for sure. There's something interesting in psychology where they say that groups of three are usually the least successful because somebody always feels a little bit left out. Two people will always bond just a little bit more than all three of them. That's not obviously always the case, but that was interesting to see played out here in this movie where there was that sense of being pushed out of the group a little bit.
Yeah, and there seems to be a big payoff in that storyline for Luca and Julia. And I was expecting more of a payoff for Alberto, but it just didn't really come. It kind of just fizzled out for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Something I want to give a shout out to is, again, the creative team for how many Easter eggs they are able to fit into this teeny tiny movie. Some things that are so brilliantly done. And so you have to almost pause it to really understand what you're looking at. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I'm talking about, there's a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea poster in Italian. When you look at it, it's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and I want a copy of it. There's a really beautiful nod to the Gregory Peck, Audrey Hepburn, Roman Holiday movie, which is hilarious, amazing. There's just so many little hidden jokes throughout this movie that I think only the adults are really going to pull from.
Yeah, there's a quick moment where you see kind of like a mid-century Italian stylized Donald Duck toy. You see a wonderful reference to Pinocchio that kind of harkens back to Disney's version of Pinocchio, and then also honors the kind of Italian roots of the story. So yeah, a wonderful job by the creatives behind this film in really detailing this world, but then also giving us a few winks.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Tweedles out there, hit me up when you find the Orange Bird poster in the movie. I laughed so hard when I saw that, laughed so hard at it. Beyond those, there's also many references to the director Fellini throughout this film. Some boats are named after characters in La Strada. There's movie posters from La Strada. I think they're watching it on one of the television shows, who was very clearly an inspiration to this movie.
Okay, so I come in talking about like how things maybe aren't so intellectual with this film and it's more just like frothy fun, but here we are talking about Federico Fellini.
Here on Gaze to the D, we're talking about Fellini.
Trash who? We're classy now, Patrick.
Yes, absolutely. So were there any moments in the film that you really pulled out as successful? This is my favorite moment of the film.
There were a couple, yeah. I thought the fantasies that Luca flies into were very successful and stylized and wonderful. They're very kind of brief snippets, but they are so beautiful. There's one kind of extended fantasy sequence that is absolutely a nod to La Luna. I mean, it's like straight out of La Luna and so beautiful and so wonderful. And as we've kind of mentioned, this movie does tend to stay towards the surface a bit more, and yet I still found myself welling up a bit in two areas in particular. I won't spoil anything, but there's a moment where Luca comes to Alberto's rescue and kind of makes this very important decision in doing so, and that got me emotional. And then the ending, Patrick, I found myself getting very emotional in the final moments of the film.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. There are definitely some emotional moments, not necessarily sob out loud, tearjerker moments, but definitely very touching, very endearing moments. We can all remember those moments in our friendships as children when you realize that friends come and go in your life a little bit. And that's sort of a message here as well, that people do come and go in your life and you have to sort of carve out your own path. And I think that was a successful message to pull from as well.
Yeah. Were there any moments that really spoke to you?
I really enjoyed the comedy of this movie more and more as it went on. Like I said, in the beginning, I almost feel like they need to redo the beginning because it didn't get me there yet. It took a while for me, and maybe it took for a while for me to understand what was happening. And maybe that's what it was. It was a code switch of my own to understand this movie. But there were so many slapstick visual pranks in this movie that they did so well, specifically when they're learning how to ride the fake Vespa that they built.
Yes.
That whole montage was so funny and used so many really smart styles of physical comedy that I didn't expect to see in a movie like this. It was great. It was wonderful. So kudos to the animation department there and the editing team as well.
There's also a great comedic moment where Maya Rudolph's character, Daniela, who is Luca's mom, is testing the village's children to find out if they might be Luca. And just the physical nature of the scene, I won't talk about how it's done, but I was laughing so hard at her kind of aggressive nature.
And it follows through. I don't know if you caught it. There were children later on in the movie with like a broken leg. Basically. Yes, so funny. Like the jokes were actually pretty clever in this movie, and the continuity was pretty great too. I have to also give a nod to the animation team. They just keep getting better and better at nuances and details. We talk about it with almost every Disney and or Pixar movie. The water effects are so spectacular, but I really liked watching the ground in this movie, strangely. The pebbles and the rocks and the textures of the ground were so beautiful. I don't know why I pulled that, but I really paid attention to it for some reason.
That's really interesting and makes total sense, right? Like when you think of these Italian villages by the ocean, you do think of that kind of those pathways and that kind of more rustic look to it. Mm-hmm. I'd like to give a shout out to whoever animated Luca's hair because I want that hair.
Luca's hair was great. Julia's hair was really amazing. The texture in her hair was so beautiful. It reminded me of what they were able to do with the characters in Soul, and the texture and the beauty that they did for those characters' hair was outstanding. And I feel like they sort of pulled that into this movie as well. So on the flip side of that, was anything sort of unsuccessful for you in this movie?
I think the most unsuccessful element would be the story and just the kind of development that the story needed that I didn't think was fully fleshed out, or maybe was at one point and then there were cuts made, or, however that works in Hollyweird, Patrick. But I don't think the story was as successful as I wanted to be, or it didn't go as deep as I wanted it to. And maybe that's my own fault for projecting what I think a Pixar film is. Like you said, Soul was so nuanced. And this movie tends to be a bit lighter. And so maybe I was expecting too much from this movie, but it wasn't that I didn't like the movie. I just was expecting more from the kind of development of it.
I would agree with that. I think that for me was also maybe the weakest link, was maybe the story or at least the script. I don't know that I loved all of the dialogue in the movie. I felt like there were some lazy lines here and there. I think the comedy more so came visually than it did with the script.
Yeah, and I think that may or may not have been a tribute to like Italian films, like classic Italian films, where there is more broad physical comedy and not so much, focused on the writing. But you're right, there were some lazy lines that were uttered where I thought that would have been so hilarious in another Pixar film, or they would have punched that up somehow. And it just feels like maybe they settled a bit in this script.
I think so too. I think I got a little bit angry at it because it felt like I'll go back to it, the very first maybe 5-10 minutes of the movie, it was like, okay, this is a little bit Little Mermaid, this is a little bit Finding Nemo now, this is a little bit Moana. It felt like they tried to pull one over on us with what they were doing with the story there, instead of trying to give a wink to those movies. It felt like they were plagiarizing those movies, frankly.
It's a tough act to follow, those films, when they've been done so successfully. And then anytime you have anything underwater after that, you can't help but think of those films, which absolutely deserve to be alluded to because they are from the same studio and they are so successful. But you're right. It's tough to separate or to not be thinking about those films in the beginning of Luca.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if a lot of the Easter eggs that we got in the movie that we both really liked and paid attention to was due to the fact that all of these creators and storytellers were at home for so long that they were like, just they had all the time in the world to think about, here's how I can add this in finally to one of these movies, and they did it, and they were successful. They were pretty well hidden. They didn't distract from the movie. They just added another layer to the beauty of this film, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. The level of detail, maybe not in the animation, if that makes sense, but the level of detail in what's happening behind, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but what's happening behind the main story of the film is really exceptional in Luca.
Yeah, the thoughtfulness that went into building this world and this town specifically was really lovely. It was just a nice love letter to Italian cinema and to Disney itself.
All right, Patrick, your summary, your 30,000-foot view of Luca. How are you feeling about this film? And do you think it will stand up as a proper Disney Pixar film in years to come?
Ooh, interesting question. You know, the more I think about it, and it's been 1 day, it's been 5 hours since I've seen it. But the more I think about it, the more I really enjoyed this movie. It is not ever going to be my favorite Disney movie or my favorite Pixar movie or my favorite animated movie. It is going to be a movie that I will watch again, though. That's for sure. It's a nice movie to watch when you just want to put something on, have a glass of wine, have a bowl of ice cream, and watch something that is just sort of a treat for the eyes. The visual aspect of this film is really lovely, and it's like eating candy, you know? It's a nice bowl of your favorite candy. So I think people are going to like this movie. I don't think it's going to be necessarily referenced in the parks or anything like that.
Right.
If it gets another treatment, it'll be in a short, or it'll be in a Disney Plus cartoon or something. I don't think there's enough to extend to another franchise, really.
Treat is the perfect way to describe this. Candy is another great way to describe this, Patrick. It doesn't necessarily have the nutritional value you need or expect from a Pixar film, but it tastes wonderful. It looks great. You know, it's a great little story, a great little package, a great little film in its own right, and really fun to watch, and will be fun to revisit in years to come. Like you said, it's a great film to have on in the background. This is one where you won't necessarily have a complete crisis of conscience like you did when you were watching Soul. You will be able to just enjoy this and appreciate the experience for its frivolity. It's okay that it's kind of like a frivolous Disney Pixar film.
Yeah, and I have to believe, or I at least think that this was maybe Pixar going, we can do a movie like this. We don't have to be so serious all the time, and we don't have to add in an element like a Toy Story or like Soul that gives you too much of a dichotomy in animation and drama. We can do something that's just lovely to watch, and I think they were successful. I liked this movie.
As did I. PK.
Good. I'm glad. I was worried a little bit. I didn't know how you were going to... This is one of the first times I had no idea how you were going to react to this film.
Same with you. We never know. People, we don't talk about these movies before we hop into our virtual chats to sort it out.
It's true. It's true. Though I do feel like we know each other enough that I feel like I know how you're going to watch a movie and what you're going to pull from it. But with this one, it's such an interesting movie that it's going to be hard to know who likes it from person to person.
Well, person, please let us know, Tweedles, how you felt about Luca. And in particular, you know, we say this often, but if you have children, please let us know how your kids responded to this movie, because it does feel like kids will love this movie. You can reach out to us on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast.
Or you can, of course, leave us a voice memo or an email at info@gaysdothed.com. Do you know what I really wanted while I was watching this movie?
Well, it's either gelato or pasta.
It's both. It made me so hungry to watch.
Can you put gelato on pasta? Is that allowed?
I'm going to try it. Absolutely. Some chocolate gelato ravioli. Yes. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Patrick.
I still want some pasta and some gelato. I'm not going to lie. I haven't given up that dream.
Well, it's a Friday night. You do you. Have some fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Before I dive into a bowl of pasta with a side of gelato. It's time for some Quick D, Adam.
Quick D, famously, is carb-free, everyone.
It's an amuse-bouche to your pasta.
That's right. A moment on the lips will not lead to a lifetime on the hips if you listen to Quick D.
It won't. It will lead to some regret, though.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, just like a bellyache after eating pasta and gelato.
Or a headache. It's really a headache that we give our listeners.
Headache. It will probably lead to some flu-like symptoms like aching. You know, you'll be very warm. You'll probably experience some nausea.
This all tracks. This all tracks for me. Absolutely. Well, Adam, what do you say? We do some classic Quick D.
Quick D Classique.
Quick D Classique, for those who don't know, Quick D Classic is where Adam and I ask each other a question we have not been privy to prior to recording. Many times, we're not even privy to our own questions prior to recording.
I'm not privy right now.
I'm like pre-privy right now, you know? But we answer said questions off the cuff, off the bat, off the wall, whatever you need. We take it off.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
I can't take anything else off, but I will answer some questions, Adam.
We should let the Tweedles know you are wearing a tank top today during our Zoom sesh. And if any of our Tweedles were watching, they'd be driven into a sexual frenzy, Patrick.
Sun's out, gonna be hot outside is the end of that sentence for me.
No, I can see your shoulders. They're looking so ample.
Those are my ample hills. R.I.P. Ample hills.
R.I.P. Ample Hills.
I will have you know, it is a Gaze to the D tank top.
Oh, okay. So it's shoulders and merch.
Sell that merch. Always be selling that merch, everybody. It's part of our Pride collection over at gazetothed.com/merch.
Always be promoting, Patrick. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Adam, would you like your question first, or do you have one for me?
I think you have to give me yours first because I don't have one.
Perfect. Well, a news story that did not make it into this episode, Adam, is that Disney Cruise Line is offering, quote, more holiday cheer than ever before in fall 2022. Adam, walk me through what that means.
Booze, Patrick. It means a heck of a lot more booze on each one of those cruises. In fact, they will be booze cruises going forward.
Interesting. A Disney booze cruise.
Yeah, what can you put in Nog? You can put rum, goes in Nog.
Vodka, why not? Why ever not?
Why ever not a vodka Nog? How about a whiskey Nog?
A Kentucky bourbon Nog.
Tequila Nog?
Ooh, nope, that's where you lost me. That's where I threw up.
Tequila Nog is a great drag name, though.
Tequila Nog. I think that's just green milk in Galaxy's Edge.
Is that what they're serving in Batu? Just tequila and eggnog?
Yeah, it's leftover eggnog from the holiday party, and they just put some tequila in it.
Yeah, so I think just more booze on all of those cruises. I think everyone's required to wear a corset and one of those old-timey Christmas carol-y dresses.
Everyone needs to wear a corset.
Every single person, Patrick.
I like it. That is a lot more holiday cheerful, I will say.
You have to sing everything as though you're caroling.
What do you mean?
You've nailed it. You're ready to go cruising.
Thank you.
And I think fruitcakes, Patrick, the ship's made entirely of fruitcakes. They are, in fact, quite dense and will float.
Will it? Will it, though?
No, it's a tribute to Titanic. Did you know famously the Titanic was made of fruitcake?
I did not know that. Good trivia. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I guess I've just destined thousands of cruisers to sink to the bottom of the ocean. Didn't mean it. Sorry about it.
Sorry about it. Don't buy your ticket. It will sink. But it'll be a delicious send-off, won't it?
The most festive way you can drown. Yes.
Just musicians playing to the very end on a fruitcake ship.
That's right. They're going to play Silent Night as that ship just slowly descends. Ironically, you'll be hearing the screams of thousands of people on that cruise ship as the musicians play Silent Night.
Oh, the least silent night that's ever happened.
Wow. This is really dark.
This is rough stuff, everybody.
It certainly is. That means we should probably just gently segue into my question for you.
Great. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Me too. Patrick, my question for you is, now that the Disney College program has returned to Walt Disney World, is it in both parks? Both domestic parks?
Great question. Is that my quick D question? Because I don't know the answer.
It's not. I know that they've had a Disney College program at Disneyland. I don't know if it's back yet. Anyway, we'll focus on Walt Disney World because this will be more fitting for my question. Now that the Disney College program is back in Walt Disney World, the kids are back at it, I am proud to report that the Disney Geriatric program, the DGP, is also back. Patrick, did you know that?
Thank goodness. It's been so long.
Yes, it has been so long. Not many people probably know this, but Disney also hires a bunch of geriatrics to come work in the parks as well. Patrick, what does the Disney Geriatric program include?
Well, a lot of classes. This is actually where the elderly learn how to unwrap a piece of candy the loudest.
This is ground zero for that, huh?
This is ground zero for unwrapping a Werther's Original in 10 minutes or more.
I can't fault them for wanting that Werther's Original because they are so good, but damn it, people, get them opened immediately.
That's right. That happens in the Germany pavilion, that class.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
Also, tennis ball placement is a class that they take, and they are offering to guests who need fresh tennis balls on their walkers and canes.
So important.
It's so important. Nothing worse than a loud elderly person walking, just dragging that walker down the street. I mean, I can't be bothered with it. I'm too young. Did this
I just steered us down an ageist street.
It was bound to happen sooner or later. I mean...
But before we end the episode, just one more, Patrick. Just rip into the elderly one more time.
Well, this is also where you learned to make the worst gas with the least amount of sound.
Patrick.
I blame you. I blame you, people over 75. But can I have a sip of your free coffee?
Oh, back to trash. We are fully back to trash now.
We're just the worst.
That will do it for this episode of Gays Do the D. Thanks for listening. To become a patron of the podcast, visit our website at gaysdothed.com/donate. For a donation of any amount, you can receive exclusive Gays Do the D content and help us continue to bring you the very best Disney news and discussion. Continue the conversation after this episode on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast, and submit your questions or show ideas to info@gaysdothed.com. Have a great week, everybody. See you real soon.